Now, after Hungary and Poland vetoed Brussels' trillion-euro budget, the Netherlands is trying to resurrect the plan. The Dutch were one of the so-called frugal four that were initially very hesitant about the coronavirus emergency funding plan. Well, let's find out a little bit more. Let's go to Brussels to speak to our correspondent, Shona Murray. Shona, right, this has been a complete headache for the EU. It took months to organise this budget, then Hungary and Poland have vetoed it. The Netherlands have got an alternative. What is it?
Well, that's right, Rosie. I mean, I remember over the past few months, this was seen as in such fanfare as a triumph. It's unprecedented that the EU would have such a package, 1.8 trillion euro, which some 750 billion euro of that, of course, in the EU Recovery Fund. It's unprecedented. It allowed the EU borrow on the markets on behalf of member states. And we know that the Dutch initially was reticent about that because it felt like it was giving member states too much money when the Dutch, of course, are net contributors to the budget. Now, as you mentioned there, Poland and Hungary have said that they're going to veto this whole package, even though they get billions of euro out of it themselves, because they don't want to agree to adhering to basic rules of law and basic EU values as part of accessing that fund. Now, the huge problem is that member states like Italy and Spain and others who are suffering so terribly because of COVID, they will have their money upheld because of Poland and Hungary. So we heard yesterday from Mark Rutte, the Prime Minister of the Netherlands, who said instead of having a 27 member state budget, we'd have a 25 intergovernmental budget. So you would cast aside Poland and Hungary. And really, it's not seen as a hugely serious suggestion, but it's really about calling the bluff of Poland and Hungary because, of course, they'll be the one to suffer. Well, their citizens actually will be the ones to suffer if they aren't given access to the budget and the recovery fund.
So have we heard anything from Hungary and Poland about these plans proposed by the Netherlands, and what might Hungary and Poland plan to do next?
Well, who knows? I mean, as I said, it's not really something on the table to be discussed at the EU summit tomorrow night. There's an EU summit of heads of state and government where they hope they can iron out the issue. Nonetheless, Hungary and Poland have said that they're steadfast not going to support the budget, so they will continue to veto it. So something will have to be done to break the deadlock, because as I mentioned there are countries that won't get money for their health services, for their economy at a time when they're all suffering a second wave. So there will have to be some sort of intervention of some sort. I think what's interesting, and I think what we won't see happening, however, is member states giving in to Poland and Hungary and watering down the legislation in relation to rule of law. I think the EU has come to a point now where they no longer will allow the sort of chipping away of democracy in places like Poland and Hungary any longer. Rosie?
Shona Murray, thank you very much. Our correspondent there in Brussels.